This episode of The Unstarving Musician is sponsored by Liner Notes. Want to learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry pros I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician? Sign up for Liner Notes, my curated email newsletter where I share the best insights and knowledge gems from these conversations, some of which have been featured here on the podcast. From marketing to songwriting to touring and sync licensing, you'll get actionable tips delivered straight to your inbox every 2 weeks. Liner Notes Insider, the deep dive edition, will feature exclusive deep dives, detailed case studies, and premium content that goes beyond the podcast interviews. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com/liner notes. It's free to get started, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Welcome to another episode of The Unstarving Musician. I am Rabonzo. This is a podcast for independent musicians and industry professionals intended to help you all with the ins and outs of creative marketing and business processes and all the things that help us make more music. And we do that here by sharing conversations with independent artists and industry professionals. How are you? Where are you? What are you wearing today? These are the things I need to know, as I'm always fond of saying. Since my last episode, Ozzy Osbourne passed, which is quite sad. Many of my friends really loved him. He was definitely in the backdrop of my youth, and I had an opportunity to meet him at an Ozfest backstage, albeit very briefly. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the best of shape at that moment in time, but he did manage to put on a heck of a performance. In any case, he made quite a dent in the music universe and beyond. My condolences to his friends and family and to all of his fans, and especially those who I know who are just really deeply saddened by his passing. My guest in this episode is Eli Lev, making his third appearance on the podcast. We first connected back in September 2018 when he was just a couple of years into his full-time music path. Then we connected again in January 2020 when he was wrapping up his Four Directions album series. Now, here in 2025, Eli has evolved into something of a touring machine. He did 250 shows last year alone, while maintaining his commitment to spiritual growth and community building. He's built and nurtured what he calls the Levatators, his dedicated fan community, and he's exploring new creative territory with his upcoming Past Lives EP. What struck me about this conversation is how Eli has learned to balance the demands of intensive touring with his personal well-being and spiritual practice. He's someone who's woven together influences from his Jewish upbringing, Buddhist studies, teaching from his time on the Navajo Nation and beyond, into both his music and his approach to career sustainability. We recorded this conversation just after he released a beautiful video for a song called Where We Come From, and that video was shot in a restored log cabin that dates back to 1765. It rests on Maryland's Trial Run Farm. It's the kind of attention to meaningful storytelling and authentic locations that personify Eli's approach to his art. I decided to try something different in this conversation. Instead of saving the deeper, more challenging questions for the end, we started there. So you'll hear us dive right into what's slowing him down lately, what pain he's willing to embrace for his music, and how he maintains his center while living much of his life on the road. Eli continues to inspire me and his fans with his intentional approach to both his artistry and music business, and I think you'll find valuable insights whether you're just starting out or you're like Eli, several years into building a sustainable music career. Here's me speaking with Eli Lev. I'm going to try something new today, which is to sort of turn my process a little upside down. I'd normally ask these types of things at the end of the interview. So we're acquainted, and we did this once. So the first one, just two of them, by the way. What's slowing you down most these days?
What's slowing me down most these days is my need to do everything as an indie artist. Um, I think that there is a power in concentrating our energy and our, focus on one thing at a time.
100%.
So what I have attempted to do is to do everything just one at a time. Now that doesn't always work, but what I've tried to do is, I'm an independent artist and I need to write songs, I need to record them, I need to tour, and I need to do shows and I need to do everything else. So what I have done now is I have kind of organized it seasonally. So I write songs in the fall, I record songs in the winter, I tour spring and summer, and a little bit of fall, and then rinse and repeat. So, for example, you know, I've done that process. Now I'm in a release process now. So all my focus, all of my attention is social media, getting my music out there, connecting with PR and release motions. And then pretty soon, in 2 weeks, all of that concentration is going to go towards crowdfunding. So I'm not sure when this episode is going to air, but it might be during my crowdfunding campaign for my upcoming album, Past Lives. But it will be like 30 days of all in focus on that. So the spread of too many things can, I think, really kind of paralyze us. But I think the focus on one thing at a time is what really can, move me forward and keep me kind of chugging along the right way.
I'm so glad I asked that question. And I know, I mean, I've written about it recently, and I know that everyone struggles with this, but I'm having like I bet any given day of the week I could say the same thing, but I'm having like a very personal experience with this because, and maybe you don't do this, you can tell me, but like social media, that I can push to the wayside really easily
Oh yeah.
as bad of a habit as that is, because I've been trying, as I mentioned, I've been working on this course material for an existing course on for new podcasters, and the one section that's really bogged me down is creating one on video podcasting. It's new. I'm kind of learning in the process. Yeah, I'm like, I got to focus on this one thing. I got to stop the other stuff because I'm never going to get this done.
Yep.
And, trying to be so laser focused, of course, one of the first things for me that goes to the wayside is social, but I'm only talking like I didn't do much this week.
Right.
Um, so is that with regards to social media or maybe something else? Do you have something like that that easily kind of gets pushed to the wayside that you beat yourself up about?
Well, it used to be social media. I guess it's shifted now because social media like is part of the release strategy.
Sure.
So, every day, morning and evening, I'm on platforms, sharing my music, making connections with people, commenting on other people's profiles, answering comments because those are building relationships. And, the more that happens, the more the kind of the share can happen as well. So that is my release strategy now. So before when I was on tour, interestingly enough, I wasn't necessarily posting every day. It was like maybe like once or twice a week. But now, like as that is my main focus, like I can see how important it is just to be visible and to share uplifting or kind or positive or interesting thoughts with folks. So that has actually become a big part of my actions now.
And again, speaking specifically about social media, does it still feel kind of seasonal then? Like there are just seasons where I'm gonna be there once a week, maybe. I hope to be there more, but the reality is,
Yeah, it has been, but more and more I'm realizing now that like that is the town forum, that is
yeah,
where people are. So if I am an independent musician and I want to be where people are, that's where they are. I mean, not everybody is there, and so I'm at the shows, I'm at the venues, and I'm doing that, which is great. But if there is like let's just imagine a nature scene. There's like a pool of water over here, and then there's like this like giant music festival gathering of music fans over here. It's like I'll go to both places, but I better spend the time where there's a lot of people that are listening and ready to engage in music. And right now, let's not call it social media anymore because it's not very social. Let's call it I am on the entertainment platforms.
hmm yeah. I heard it. I wish I could remember it right now. I heard a similar comment. It's not very social, and I'd heard a name, another name for it. And there are all kinds of ones we can make. What is your favorite platform these days?
I have been, I mean, I was on Facebook when it began in college. I got the invite. You had to have a college email address
Hmm.
to be on Facebook.
What year was that when you got on?
I think that was maybe 2003,
Okay.
2004.
Yeah, yeah, I tell me if this is right. I feel like they opened it up in around 2007, but maybe it's more like 2006. Is that right?
I think they had kind of the only college
Hmm.
invites, maybe 2004, 2005, and I think 2006, 2007 they opened up publicly.
Sounds right.
I've been on Instagram since that began as well, 2000, maybe 15, 2013.
Did that start
Um,
in 2015? Wow.
yeah, it's pretty nuts when you think about it. So it's been around for at least 10 years. And
I
then
thought longer, but it's
it
probably
could be
not long.
longer. Yeah, it could be longer. And then, I wasn't like the first adopter of TikTok, but I've kind of like had an interesting, kind of flirtatious relationship with TikTok. But just recently, Rob, I have gone mini viral. The first time that any of my posts have like really kind of taken off on TikTok and Instagram. And I have to thank my TikTok, Instagram community, especially my friends out on the Navajo Nation
Oh, nice.
in Shanto, Arizona, for really embracing my music. I posted about my understanding of the indigenous system of ke. It's like a Shanto relation way to figure out how people are, what clans they're in, and how the relations are happening. And then I posted about my song Long Way Back to Shanto, and that took off. And then I posted about how to introduce myself in Navajo, and I got a lot of feedback, a lot of help, which was amazing. And then all my students were like, "Hey, Mr. Lev, it's been like 20 years, how are you?" So like,
Painful.
yeah, yeah. So, reconnecting with my former students and teachers and colleagues, it's actually been pretty awesome. And that's
That's
been on
cool.
TikTok and Instagram.
Wow. That's community right there that you had
It's
that
cool.
that came around. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Upside down question number two.
Yeah.
So I recently read a quote that goes like this: What we get out of life is not determined by the good feelings we desire, but by the bad feelings we're willing and able to sustain to get us to those good feelings." And
Ooh.
I confess I haven't. I saved that, but I haven't really contemplated it much myself. But I will ask you, what pain do you want in your life? What are you willing to struggle for?
Yeah, that reminds me of kind of the idea that whatever like feels good right now is probably not good for you in the long run.
Yeah,
Like,
indeed.
if I just sat down and ate like two boxes of chocolates right now, that would feel really good. But in the long run, I would probably regret that. So it's a very interesting balance also to discern what those things are, that we should be kind of like struggling through or struggling with. However, I would say that currently my kind of this kind, my spiritual space right now is not having to suffer. Like, what are the things that I usually suffer through, like choose to suffer through,
Hmm.
but not feeling like it's like a negative feeling or anything, but actually just feeling part of the process.
Right.
So, for example, touring 250 shows last year from Canada to US to all over the country, going to, England and Europe and all of that earlier this year. That was a big lift, big push. And in a way, you could have called it a struggle if you wanted to. I really consciously thought to myself, it's like, yeah, I could think of it like that, but I could also think of it as like this is part of the journey. This is something to enjoy. This is not if it's even if it's not enjoyable all of the moments, this is something that is required, something that is asked. And I think like any growth happens at the edge of discomfort, right? I think that's also alluding to that, where it's like if we want to grow and if we want to learn, we have to be willing to, you know, enter those spaces.
Right. In retrospect on the touring thing, I've read, probably talked about it a little bit about the challenges, but in retrospect, do you feel, or how well prepared do you feel you were for those challenges and bumps and things, or was it a little bit? Were you taken aback somewhat?
I've been traveling my whole life. I've been touring all over the world in one way or the other. I had trained my driving skills in the US. You know what I mean? I had learned how to drive manual way back in the day. I had to relearn it again. But I would say I was as prepared as I could be, but it was still different than touring in the US, going through Portugal, Spain, France, Poland, Czech Republic, Austria, learning a new language and having new money and new like cultural exchanges every 2 or 3 days was interesting, and it was a unique challenge. You know, figuring out rental cars and sound equipment and flights. There's a lot of logistics, but I think I was prepared for it, and I think that that experience has also prepared me for whatever's next.
I love it. So you have a relatively new video out that you recorded live in that cabin that you've done some other recording in, I think.
Yeah,
Where We Come From. I liked it, by the way. It sounds great.
thank you.
Your videographer, I looked at a little closer today. Great.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
Sounds
awesome.
good. Where is that location in relation to where you live? Um, and I guess tell me more about the song for listeners.
Yeah, Where We Come From is just released. It is the story of my mom's side from the South. She was born in Mississippi, but her family was from South Carolina. They were workers in the cotton mills from the late 1800s on. And the story of my dad's side of the family. His family is from Chicago by way of Eastern Europe, Poland, Belarus, Ukraine. And I wanted to honor both of those sides of the family in this song. It's part of my EP called Past Lives, which is essentially bringing the voices of my ancestors to life. And these songs are very special and very sacred, and they need a certain space to really kind of, get that effect. And me and my friend Luke Justin Roberts, LJR, he's the videographer, we were looking for places on Airbnbs around Maryland. And this one was about 2 hours north, just outside of Baltimore, in this beautiful farm. It's called Trial Run Farm. And they had found this, it was actually a home, it wasn't a cabin. It was a log home built in 1765 on the side of the road. And they were just going to kind of destroy it. And they saw these rafters, these like big, huge, massive logs that was made from. So they restored it completely with the help of local Amish workers. No nails, no kind of mechanics, just like all old school. And it's a beautiful space. There's like an old Revolutionary flag. There's like lanterns going on. There's the front stoop. So we recorded a live performance video of all of the songs on that album at the log home. And it was there's a thunderstorm that came through just before, and there's a live performance video of another song called Echo. There's this huge lightning bolt that like comes down through, and it's like, the ancestors are here. They're speaking. They're with us, and it felt like a really cool kind of blessing for the project.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that, or maybe didn't see the whole thing. I'll have to rewatch it. Echo.
Echo. Yep. So
That's cool.
each of the 5 songs are going to have a live performance video, and all of those videos were performed in the log house from 1765.
Cool. Yeah, because I did see another one. I wonder if I didn't know where it was. And I was like, I wonder if you
Mhm.
recorded several at the same time. I'm probably
Yep.
was thinking that because, like, knowing you did.
Knowing Eli, he probably batched it. He probably put them all together, and you're correct.
Yeah, no, good idea.
Yep.
I bet it had. So, I think you commented, not just now, but I think I read perhaps in one of your emails that the sound inside was really warm because of the wood.
Yes. Yeah. It was just all wood with some carpets, and there was this kind of like really organic, natural feeling. And yeah, just like the spirits of people who, had been in and out of that space for the last 200 years. Pretty
That's so
amazing.
cool. There's a venue here in Querétaro uh, for music and probably other things. It'll hold a good number of people. It basically has bleacher style seating. It's open air inside a structure, but very open air, very high ceiling. A lot of stone actually. And I went to see a band from Argentina there and saw a local act as well. And I was really curious how it was going to sound. And I was shocked at how warm it sounded. But my guess is the stone was because of its contour, sort of maybe a little bit like that wood effect or something. Because I was thinking this is going to be like loud and echoey, I
Mhm.
bet, but not so much. It was really nice. It's surprising what old places can
Yeah,
do.
it's really fascinating how the sound or the audio profile of the space can affect a show. Usually, when we go into a venue, we're just like, oh, are the seats comfortable? You know what I mean? Like, is the lighting nice? And yeah, that's very helpful. But whether it's a live venue or a live performance or like a recorded audio, I found that the acoustics really do affect a performance. So it's really interesting to find the right spot.
Totally. Totally. I love reading about that stuff from like my favorite recordings from when I was young and just like maybe arguably first getting into music, how they found this super cool space that was otherwise, you know, nothing special, but it just sounded amazing. So they do the whole album there. But
Yeah.
going back to all the touring you did last year, I know that you have written about and talked about the mental health and just maybe just kind of the health strains that kind of thing can put on you. And I know you've even talked to some podcast hosts about it. I don't recall. I know we talked a little bit about it too in the past, recent past, but I don't recall asking you very specifically, like what was moment that seemed like it was a bit much to bear, maybe too much to bear, maybe you felt a moment of crisis or something, or just like, oh, what am I doing? But can you share one or, if you have more than one, share those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the question too, because, it's a chance to share testimony. And part of the point of talking about mental health is just to speak about it and
Hmm.
not to make it this isolating thing. And interestingly enough, it was the isolation. It was the kind of feeling the disconnect that really was the trigger, or that really was the kind of red flag for me. It's like, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? Like I'm on the road for 8 hours a day on my own. Then I go into this venue and it's great and it's fantastic. And I'm like, helping them be like entertained and everything. And then it's just like a quick switch off again. So
Hmm.
navigating those two extremes, being away from friends, family, partner, like it just it began to feel very isolating. And so that was an indicator to me to reach out, get the right support, and find the right resources. Luckily, I found a organization called Backline,
Hmm.
and Backline I think has been really one of the top organizations actually lately that's been getting a lot of support from other artists. I know Chapel Roan did a contribution and matched it, and other artists matched hers, and they just got more funding. They even partnered with Spotify to have mental health resources for artists, which is amazing. So yeah, they helped me pair with a therapist, got me a good kind of price for it, and had a whole bunch of other resources. And that was really kind of the stability and the connection that I needed to keep me going through tour, and also to help me with the transition off of tour, because those are also two really big kind of difficult transitions to navigate, both going on tour and off tour. So they helped a lot with that too.
What's the come down aspect of it like? I hadn't thought about that a lot, but I know, well, and I mean like the end of a tour. I've talked with and certainly have experienced it to a degree. I wouldn't say at the same level that you have, but I've experienced it like when you do some shows and there's just a lot of electricity and then it's
Yeah.
over, But doing that night after night for maybe close to a year, what
Yeah.
is the come down cycle, or what was your experience with the come down cycle?
Well, this is why artists have historically struggled with addiction
Mm-hmm.
because there is such a high. And without that, what is there? You know what I mean? Booze, drugs, women, men, like whatever. Like that has been historically the thing that has replaced it
Mm-hmm.
and just try to help artists like, maintain that, whatever that is. That's very dangerous over a long period of time. It can help like from on tour or just off tour between tours, but over a long period of time, it's terrible for our health. So what happens is tours a rush, every night, different place, different cool new experiences. And then coming off of tour, it's like, oh, I'm just in this one place. Like, did all that really happen? You know what I mean? Like people
Mm-hmm.
aren't cheering for me when I have breakfast. People
When you
aren't
walk in
waiting
the
for me
coffee shop.
right. Like I just got like a Subway sandwich and people don't recognize me, you know what I mean? Like I'm just a regular person in line or something. And reestablishing the relationships that were virtual and reestablishing them in person, family, friends, partner, can be tricky. Can be tricky. And establishing routines and staying connected with fans. There's a really big transition. It's called Backline had a term for it. They call it entry and exit friction. That can happen.
Mm.
So there's a before tour, like a week or 2 weeks before tour, there that can be a lot of issues. You're going away, you're like getting stoked and stuff. Kind of like you're not always present. And also being able to identify those stages and know that they are there and have the tools to like work with it has been really huge. So shout out to Backline for helping me with that. And that was a really big support system for going on tour, during tour, and coming off tour.
That's cool. And interesting. I have mentioned shared backline. It was fortunately a fairly easy resource to find when I started looking into health on the road in general. Mental
Yeah.
health and physical health and all that stuff. And yeah, I've heard a couple of artists extol the virtues of it, and I'm glad to hear that they're doing well and getting good partnerships and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, all right. Thanks for sharing that. I hadn't really talked much with anyone about that entry and exit
Yeah.
phase. Experienced it, read about it, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear. And I'm sure everybody's experience is a little unique. For you personally, do you by chance thrive on real life connection, like in person, or is that like a big charge for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I found that it's both. I need my alone time and I need to feel connected. So just
Mm-hmm.
having that balance has been really important. And that's the same virtually too.
Yep.
I like to get online and message people and let them know they're doing a good job. And it's really awesome to get messages of encouragement from people online. But at the same time, it's nice to have a private life, you know,
Yeah,
to have like our own corners, our own
totally.
kind of spaces. So just balancing that is good too.
Totally. You reminded me, for as long as I've been on and off social media and all these things I do that really require it, I still stop myself sometimes, go like, what is the best way to tell this person I loved something that I read or saw or heard. So an example, I was reading multi-contributor. I get a newsletter from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's a multi-contributor thing. He's got two guys that are like staff editors, and one of the guys, Adam Bornstein, has written some really nice stuff, particularly recently that caught my attention. And so I clicked on his link in the email because I wanted to say, dude, good job again, because I recently had told him as much. But in the first case, he had a very related post on Instagram, which is where his link took me to. Today, I'm like, this isn't on there. Should I just drop him a DM, or should I like post on one of his recent posts and say, okay, not related, great post, but I have to tell you, blah blah blah. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's always good. I always appreciate it when my fans let me know if there's a typo, or if like, hey, this didn't go there, or this link is down, or like your photo's messed up, or this show isn't on the right calendar, or the timing is wrong. It's great.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
great to have like a bunch of agents checking all the stuff. And it's just, there's so much stuff out there. There's going to be mistakes.
And I'm sure the positive stuff is just amazing, right? I know
Yeah.
when I get it, I'm like, oh, someone's listening. Great, thanks, man. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. As you know. Yeah. It's great to know that people are listening. And it's also good to know if something isn't translating, or something is confusing or something. That happens quite a bit for me too. So I always appreciate it when
Yeah.
people let me know there's an update that I need to make, or something that I missed. So it's
All right,
good.
I answered my own question then. I'm just going to DM him and say, dude, love
There you
this
go.
piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Just let them know.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
So when you're on the road and the connectionlessness sets in,
Yeah.
have you, maybe it's something you're developing now because of the 250 shows, experience, but do you have any strategies for connecting with people in person when you're on the road? Anything that you plan ahead, or that you will plan ahead for, so that you have that sort of checked off, that fulfillment thing, and you're also serving your fans probably, or whatever? Do you have anything that you use?
Yeah. There's always like little kind of like tiny oases, on tour, where it's like my college friend is here, my cousin's there,
Mm,
high
great.
school buddies over here, got a musician friend in Nashville. I'll stop by
One,
Omaha to see my buddy, like stuff like that.
yeah, just one musician friend in Nashville, by the way.
A few, multiple. So that's always nice. And that'll happen maybe once every week or 2 weeks. It's kind of nice to just like check in and feel like a little bit connected and at home with folks. And if that isn't the case, I mean, even in Europe, I lived in Andorra for 3 years. So I met all my Andorran friends there, and I like went back to the Spanish town where I got lost at on a bike ride 10 years ago, Cañete de las Torres.
Hmm.
And they all remembered me. It was awesome.
Wow.
England, I saw old friends. So it's good. There's people pretty much all around the world, and it's nice to have those little bases along the way.
On the rare occasion that you find yourself in no man's land with regards to acquaintances, or anticipate it, do you ever think about that? And is there anything, or you're just like, well, I got to make some friends little by little?
Yeah, that has happened in Montana, North Dakota. But even if I don't know folks, usually a Levitator fan is sending somebody to a show, or a
Nice.
family member knows somebody who's like, hey, check out Eli Lev in Minneapolis or something. So that happens quite often, which is kind of nice.
That's good. That speaks a lot to the community that you've built and the importance of it for others. I don't know that I've asked you much about this ever, but Levatators, right?
Levitators.
What's the secret sauce that you use or have used to build it? And also, if you can describe the community for listeners.
Sure. My name is Eli. My last name is Lev, Lev. When I was beginning my community, I put out a call to folks and be like, hey, what should we call ourselves? And two separate people thought of levitators. And I thought that was awesome.
Mhm.
Levitation is like, there's a lightness, there's a raising, there's a mystical, magical quality to it as well. So I thought that was perfect. So we decided our name was going to be Levitators, and they are in my music videos. I make music videos with the Levitators, sending in videos from all around the world, splice them together. We do live streams together, and it really is kind of like a mutual support thing. feel like a lot of levitators be like, oh, thank you, Eli, for doing all this and, for sharing your music. You're awesome. But it's also like my own salvation. Like I need it just as much as an artist to feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself, to feel that, there's an act of service there, and to feel like there's a movement around the music. So I would say it's a mutually beneficial relationship for all involved. I do have a place on my website. If people are interested, they can go to eli-lev.com, and there's a button on the bottom and it says, "Are you ready to levitate?" And that's where the journey begins.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a good story. Good one. Yeah.
You're a levitator.
Yes,
You've
I
been a
am.
long
I
time
am,
levitator.
aren't I? I never really thought of myself that way,
You
but I
are.
am.
You are a long-time levitator.
I am. Do you know Dean Johannesson by chance? I'm dropping names on you from people who've either been on the podcast or I've met that I'm thinking you may have met on your journeys. But so he's another guy you should know. He's based in, I think, maybe Sarasota, definitely in Florida.
Okay.
He has this genre, perhaps that he is the granddaddy of, called circus swing.
Okay.
And I don't know that he anticipated staying in that lane for as long as he has, but I've been on his list for quite some time too, and he's actually a big contributor for my Liner Notes newsletter, just in terms of things that he shares. And he's been on the podcast a couple times, like yourself, and he's just always reading and commenting and stuff, and that means a lot. But I don't know if he has a cool name for his community like Levatators. I'll have to ask him.
Well, if he's got the circus theme going on, there's tons of stuff he could do with that.
I
Yeah.
know, and he may have one because, see, I mean, it shows how observant I am. Like, I have been on your list for a while, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm part of the crew, I guess.
You are.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Speaking of magical and mystical,
Mhm.
you've described your songs, I believe, in the past as songs for everyday enlightenment. You have, I don't know if it's a triad is a good word and maybe not even accurate, but your spiritual journey seems to come from more than one place.
Mhm.
Where do you feel like you land if you are in a triangle, or maybe you're in sort of a dual spiritual space in terms of philosophical beliefs? And then, of course, if you can talk about the way you balance, this sort of great pop sensibility with the deeper philosophical things rambling around in your head.
Yeah, I think it's been a evolving journey, evolving spiritual journey. Being raised Jewish, still celebrating Christmas, connecting with Buddhism in college, practicing Kundalini yoga out of college, then being exposed to the indigenous lifeways and pathways of the Navajo Nation of the Southwest.
And refresh my memory on the Navajo Nation. That is simply through exposure, no direct relation ties.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Then, traveling all over the world through Australia and the Middle East, connecting with Judaism, Islam, going to Andorra and connecting with Catholicism, Spanish Catholicism, getting into the Midwest in Indiana for my master's degree and connecting with, rural Christianity. It's been amazing. And then just recently, the Baha'i faith, the Baha'i community, and a very special group of people, a really interesting history, and a very beautiful collective vision of humanity as a whole. So where do I land in all of that? I land in a place where meditation is really important to me. My Jewish identity is really important to me. My Southern roots and family community is really important. And also having the space to explore and to be open to other belief systems and interpretations. It's just it keeps evolving. But the spirituality is there. That's why when you might listen to the songs, you might start noticing there's multiple layers going on in the song. There's like the presentation lyrics, there's the metaphors, there's the meta metaphors that are happening, and then how they all connect with each other. There's the different instruments, the different sounds that I use, whether it's native flute or mandolin or guitar or harmonica. all of those have a place and a space that they're from. So yeah, all those experiences are reflected and expressed through the music.
Sounds like you actively seek out or actively explore different faiths based on, these things that you've mentioned. Where does that come from? Like, because I don't think that, and I ask it that way because, like,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's in me. I find different faiths fascinating, and I find
Yeah.
organized religion fascinating, and I read a lot of on Buddhist philosophy, but I don't see myself as someone that I'm assuming that you may be, who sort of actively looks to explore these faiths a little deeper, maybe even in some sort of personal manner. Is that
Yeah.
true? And if so, where does it come from for you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple influences around there. I think first of all, I grew up in a very diverse community, the suburbs outside of DC, Montgomery County. There's a street called New Hampshire that
Hmm.
comes out from DC as like a spoke, comes through the Silver Spring area. And on New Hampshire, I am not kidding you. I think it has, I'm pretty sure it has it's the densest population of religious institutions in the entire country.
No kidding.
Every block, you'll have a Thai Buddhist temple, you'll have a Muslim center, you'll have a Greek Orthodox, you'll have a Catholic church, you'll have a synagogue, you have an Indian worshiping place. Like it just keeps going. You drive down that road, and it's amazing.
That's
So I grew
fascinating.
up 2 blocks from that street, driving up and down that street to high school. My friends were Jewish, Christian. They came from Hong Kong. They came from Korea. They explored. They had Sikh religion was there. So like growing up around all that influence really kind of just made me realize that there's a lot of different ways of connecting and believing with in spirituality. And I think also travel has a lot to do with it.
Sure.
The more I travel, the more I see how different people live and how similar it is, in the depth of it. And spirituality is one way to experience a culture. So is food, so is place, so is like people, so is language. So I don't think I think spirituality and belief systems have been part of my understanding of communities and cultures, and also myself and how I relate to them.
Yeah, I would imagine that the 2 blocks away from that area was like
Wow.
a big contributor.
Yeah, pretty cool.
What is your process for turning like your own personal journey, the good stuff, the difficult stuff, into songs that clearly resonate with people? Do you have, I mean, I think a lot of us probably have a challenge even seeing that we have that stuff in ourselves. And
Yeah.
a lot of us may think like people like Eli are just like, you have such an interesting background, all these, the diversity of your family and this place you grew up, and I don't have any of that stuff. But but I'm assuming, I think my assumption probably is that a lot of us have that. Maybe all of us have something like that. It may not even really be so much around culture, but some other facet of our personality. So yeah, I think it would be helpful for people to hear how you think through turning those experiences into music.
I'm gonna say something that is almost revelatory to myself as I say it. But there's a big shift that happened with me where I realized songwriting isn't about producing, it's about processing. So instead of creating something for somebody else to consume, instead of writing as a way to like make something, you know what I mean? To contribute something. Instead, I have come to realize for myself, songwriting is a way to process what I'm going through. And there's no shortage of process, never, because we're always processing,
Hmm.
whether it's about what somebody said to us that made us feel a little bit down, or somebody keeping the door open for us when we went to the gas station, or just feeling overwhelmed, or feeling grateful, or feeling love. Like we are a continually processing being as human beings. So there's never a missing ideas or things to sing about or to connect on. And it also takes the pressure off. I wonder if someone's going to like this. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter at all. It's just a processing thing for ourselves as a creative. Now it's amazing when people do connect with it. And what I have found is the more personal that processing can become through music, the more universal
Mm-hmm.
it becomes. So because that's human and because everybody has felt that. Changing it from producing to processing is one of the biggest things, the biggest shifts that I have discovered in the creativity realms.
That's so interesting. And I would imagine that many, if not most, music artists are doing that very thing. And as you were finishing that thought, I was like, oh, actually, in the small amount of music I publish and in the writing I've done, that's all I've been doing. But, and then, and part of it actually is processing my music experience as well.
Yeah.
But, there's things from up here pointing at my head, and then there were these musical experiences. But I think the front part of my mind is, was focused on, well, it's probably this. I was going to say something that's not really true. I was going to say that the front of my mind was focused on processing the music, not really fully understanding that that's what I was doing, but maybe
Yeah.
that just somehow seems like something I want to get across even more than all the monkeys in my head on the
Yeah.
lyric sheet. But
Yeah.
but I guess maybe that could just be the order in which things happen for me more than anything.
Yeah. And even if we don't realize it, we are still doing that. We're just
Yeah,
processing
yeah.
what's going on,
So
as
for
well.
you, was it just a realization that you were doing that anyway? And if so, what difference has it made for you? Just you mentioned like pressure, kind of like the pressure's off, but has there been other things about that have transformed your ability to stay creative?
There has been a realization, but also with that realization has been an opening to that process, kind of like letting that take over.
Mm-hmm.
And the songs feel more personal, and I get more excited about the songs because it's like it means a lot to me.
Makes sense.
And people, I mean, our whole world is phony, so people are all about like what is authentic around me. That's the stuff. That's what I want to get to. So the more authentic we can be, connected to ourselves, actually, the more power that has.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been liberating. It's been interesting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the my music on this album, Past Lives, has a different sound, a different feel than previous music. Some people might enjoy that more, and some people might not, and that's okay. They can listen to the old songs, and maybe there's some new songs coming down the way. But right now, this is there's some deep and sacred and mystical kind of sounds and themes in this project that I know are important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For me, as someone who's listened to your music, I wouldn't call me like I know your catalog like the back of my hand, but I've listened
Yeah.
to it for a while now.
Yeah, you're an OG.
Yeah. For me, it feels like the two things that are evolving are the stories, which is natural, I
Yep.
think, or good. It's good. It's not natural for all artists. It hasn't been. But also your voice. I mean, you were always a good singer to me, but when I hear you more lately, I'm like, and I can go back maybe a year and go, wow, man, your voice is getting really, really good. So,
Yeah.
but I could see that. I would think that for most people, I say those two things because I think musically and melodically, well, there is the introduction of different instruments, which keeps it fresh, keeps it
Yep.
really fresh. But I think that has been the part for me, the music and the musicality of what you do has been kind of consistent. So I feel like I kind of know in a way what I'm getting into when I step into a new song by Eli Lev, which is
Yeah.
good.
That's
I mean that in a
cool.
good way.
Cool. Yeah, the
So,
musicality and the lyrics and the storytelling is kind of like a constant.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a lot of kind of flexibility with genre, instrumentation, mood. So yeah.
I'd love to hear you since you say that. I'd love to hear you push the genre aspect harder, just as a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The shifting of them. I think that would be cool because you have a real strong. For me, everybody's different, but you have a real strong kind of sound that
Hmm.
feels consistent to me.
Cool.
And so, while now that you've said that, I know I could look back and go, "Oh yeah, I can kind of see." I can. I mean, I can even think about it on some of the things I've listened to that you're blending these different styles and music
Yeah.
cultures. But maybe it's like sonically or something, sonically or rhythmically. I think it would be fun to hear you push those to what feels more extreme for you anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I am Past Lives is part of a three-part series. Present Journey, Past Lives, and Future Myths is coming. After the three-part series, it's called Three Worlds. I'm gonna begin another project called Two Friends.
Hmm.
And Two Friends is all about collaborative songs. So it'll be me and another artist. And what I'd like to do is to have those artists be international and
That's a
different
great idea.
genres. So you'll be getting your wish will be coming true very soon.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Do you self-produce?
I always work with
And
other
and, and
producers.
let me qualify that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have anybody in the production booth who acts as kind of like director, coach? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like is trying to help you steer your sound.
Yeah, always. So I always go to a studio. The producers are always different though. So for example, this Past Lives, I worked with Taylor Rigg out of Master Disc Studios in Peekskill, New York.
Okay.
And I worked with him before on True North from the Four Directions. But for Present Journey, I worked with Austin Bello out of Manassas, Virginia. My first two records, All Roads East and Way Out West, I worked with Jeff Gruber from Blue House Productions. And in my duo group, Wild Whispers, I worked with the producer out of Nashville, Ben Reno. So I have worked with, including the other, solo kind of one-off songs that I've done with folks. I probably worked with 7 different producers.
Okay.
And I always like that. I always like having somebody else on the controls, helping me with producing and building sounds, helping with the direction of the project. I like that a lot, working with someone else.
I don't know if it was you that I did this with somewhat recently or another artist, but it's fun whenever you can find it to look at the work of a producer with an artist, say like yourself, and then give a listen to the other stuff they work on is always
Right,
so fun because
right.
you start to experience their diversity in the work that they do.
Yeah, it's really cool. And, a producer will be stretched by the artist and an artist will be stretched by the producer. So there's always that middle ground that happens, which is really cool and unique.
Yeah, hopefully it's a two-way street, but that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I'd say it makes sense. If it's a good pairing that the stretching would go the other way towards the producer too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably very frequently that way, I would imagine, not having really sat in the chair. But I can imagine, like I was trying to give you my whole like production thoughts on your future music, but I could imagine if I was a producer, it would be so different from one artist to the next.
Yeah, it can be, which is cool.
Yeah. I think I said this last time, but so many things I could be asking you. Maybe I'll send you an email if you have time
Yeah, happy to.
to answer some other things. That would be great. Wait, I have it. You don't have to refresh my memory. It's Eli-Lev, not hyphen spelt out, but Eli-Lev.com. You have a nice website that kind of shows everybody what's happening and lets them know what you're working on. So I'd recommend people check that out, lest I forget to mention it in the intro. And thanks again for spending time with me. It's always great to talk to you.
It's fantastic. I'm glad we reconnected and able to catch up. And I'm just excited for your musical journey and very grateful for you to continue to shine the light on the musicians you enjoy and their process. So I
Thanks, man.
appreciate you.
Thanks, man. As an independent podcaster, your support means the world to me. You could even say I depend on it. With that in mind, here are some things you can do to help support us. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Or shoot me a review by email, robonzo@unstarvingmusician.com, that I can use on the website. Or just share this episode with a friend. This makes a huge impact on our audience growth. You could also visit our crowd sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn of the many other ways of supporting the podcast, including a quick and easy online tip jar. It's like click, tip, done, easy, and super appreciated. You'll find many ways of showing your support there, including through our affiliate partners like Bandzoogle, Kit, Email, formerly ConvertKit, DreamHost, and others. The music you're hearing is New Gods Part 2, the instrumental mix by yours truly. You can hear the full version, download it, or buy it at robonzo.com. And if all this was too much to remember or process, just go to the show notes for this episode at unstarvingmusician.com to find links to all the stuff talked about in this episode. You can leave us feedback, questions, comments, complaints at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. Thanks for listening. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.